In professional sport, at a high level, money is always relevant to a decision-making process, especially one which is as personal as this.
For a player in the Premier League, the median salary is around about £2.6, £2.7 million a year. So clearly that's very significant.
Would an agent consider it to be a negative stance in a negotiation to admit his player was gay? Yes.
That could translate to a deal not going through, losing sponsorship deals.
I think there will be so much interest creating a whole new revenue stream for them.
I think you would clean up on sponsorship.
As far as Adidas is concerned, there are no problems with having a gay man as ambassadors for our brand.
It may be an issue if they are in a country where it is illegal or frowned upon to be LGBTQI+.
Football is kind of a money-making machine, and anything that's going to stop that machine is going to cause a problem.
My name's Kieran Maguire from the University of Liverpool, where I've been teaching football finance for many years. The earnings of a Premier League player very much vary according to his position in terms of attractiveness to the media, to broadcasters, to commercial sponsors, commercial partners, and so on. The median salary is around about £2.6, £2.7 million a year. So clearly that's very significant. You spread that over a 7-year career, and we're probably looking at £20 million for somebody that manages to stay in the Premier League. During that period, he or his agent or his representatives will be negotiating deals on behalf of the player to try to maximise their earnings. If you are a top-level footballer who is engaging, has a presence, then your earnings off the pitch can often match those on the pitch.
I remember growing up, you just wanted to play football. You didn't know what the kind of the perks were. It was just the outcome was you playing football, wearing a kit in front of thousands of people. It wasn't like, well, they give you this as well, on top of that, on top of that.
If a player comes out as gay, in terms of the impact on his earnings, it could be that if there is a coordinated effort at the date he decides to come out, that he aligns himself with certain products, it could be very lucrative for him. The negative impact could be that the ability of the player to sign new deals with some existing alpha male brands would be diminished. It could be that there will be hostility in certain locations. There are some agents and advisors who are more progressive, who are looking after their clients' long-term interests as opposed to the agent's short-term interests. I would be very disappointed in any agent who took the view that a short-term hit to a player's earnings should take precedence over the player's willingness to come out as gay, to show that sexuality is a non-issue in terms of being a professional athlete.
It's difficult to second-guess what an agent's advice would be. There's so many different personalities. I think some agents will be advising players if they're even aware of it. And players don't necessarily confide in their agents about things like this. But if an agent was to be told about it, I think, again, you might have some agents that say, this is a great opportunity for us to trailblaze, for us to make a brand. Other agents will be more worried about the consequences of, oh, what if I can't get you a move to this particular country or that particular country? What if we have to then move clubs and the manager might be homophobic?
Take a theatrical agent and put him on acid, or her on acid, and that's a football agent. My name's Jon Smith, allegedly the first of the super agents. When I was at my zenith, before I sold out, I had 400-odd players, including Diego Maradona. Our job as an agent, my job as an agent, was to maximize my client's interests, his financial interests. Would an agent consider it to be a negative stance in a negotiation to admit his player was gay? Yes. Because there are not quite so many clubs in England, but there are places around the world, certainly in Eastern Europe, and certainly in the Middle East, where it borders on criminal activity. If you happen to be a football player and an agent doing a deal, it's difficult. It really is difficult. That's partly why most players who are gay probably haven't made it apparent publicly.
The argument of, oh, it could stop transfers, it could stop moves, it's less about a group of clubs that you can no longer go to, more just about, is that particular manager homophobic or is that particular captain homophobic? But again, the reality is, nowadays, that would be quite public. If that happened, if a move broke down for those reasons, you would rather be the gay player than the player that had the issue in the first place or the manager that had the issue in the first place. That would be career suicide.
I fear that some football clubs might take profit before pragmatism. They would try to encourage the player from delaying making that decision. Potentially, they might look to move the player on if they felt that it would damage the brand of the club itself. They would make it somebody else's issue. Having said that, from what I see of football chief executives, they are more modern than that. They are more up to date in terms of their thinking. And it would only be one or two clubs who are likely to have a less tolerant approach.
As important as football is, and as important as it is to our livelihoods and our business, an individual's human rights to be able to speak openly when they want to, however they want to, on a subject that they want to, should also be part of a balance and be respected as well.
As a football agent, we do a number of different things, but it might seem that we just do the transfers and move player from A to B, but there's so much more that we do. Many of the things off the field, including commercial deals, including media relations, looking after the player on just a 360 basis, to be honest.
In professional sport, at a high level, money is always relevant to a decision-making process, especially one which is as personal as this. I don't think the salary would be impacted in a negative manner, no. I do think it may be impacted negatively in the world of sponsors, because in some quarters it'll still be seen as offensive to some people, and global brands have to be cognizant of those marketplaces.
I think there will be so much interest from everybody across the footballing landscape, but sport in general, creating, if that player wanted, a whole new revenue stream for them. If there's a player who wants to come out and there's an agent saying, nope, you can't do it, it's gonna be terrible, you're gonna lose out on X, Y, Z, that's just ill advice.
Attitude magazine, what wonderful people they are. Them and Paddy Power sponsored my A licence. I'm in the 8th tier. So what's going to happen to someone in the 1st tier?
If an English player came out as gay in the Premier League, I think there would be a number of brands who are progressive, who would be very keen to engage with that player to show support on a variety of levels, perhaps using them as an ambassador for the company.
If I looked after a male player who wanted to come out, it's important to really understand whether it's an identity that they want to explore in more depth. If that's something that they wanted to do, we'd work really closely with whoever's involved, whether that be a brand, whether it be a club, and make sure that it's a really welcomed package.
We would continue to support them in their game of football, and we would work with them given their comfort level on if they needed support coming out with our employee resource groups and our LGBTQ IA+ community that we have internally in our employee base. We have global purpose partners and we have PR, so we would come together as much as they would want us to. We wouldn't create a marketing strategy about someone coming out unless that was part of what they wanted to be part of their story. We want to be really careful that we would never infringe on exploiting one's identity. And we've seen a lot of positive reactions to when players have come out. Of course, we all know that there can be ecosystems of digital reaction or negative reaction, and we would always support a player or a team and stand in solidarity with them.
If a player came out as gay and they also had image rights deals overseas in territories where there is hostility towards gay people, I suspect that those deals would be terminated immediately. But I think as one door closes, there will be other doors that would be open because there are many companies these days who are aware of corporate social responsibility and want to be associated with being progressive, and therefore they would be more than happy to tie up a deal as a replacement.
Where there is legislation or there are places where it's illegal to be gay, we would always work with the player and maintain their protection. Disclosure is a very big topic in terms of coming out as gay, queer, trans, or non-binary. And that disclosure should always be upon the individual. And in areas where, they need to be safe, we would want to be a part of that continual protection to keep them safe, to be able to continue to thrive and play their sport.
I think it will certainly be different for that first player who comes out in the men's game because it hasn't been done before in the Premier League. But I would advise them to use their voice because I think the power behind that message is going to transcend across the world. It's an opportunity to be a role model and shape the future, be able to show people that you can be gay and play football too, which has certainly been something that has held people back from doing something they love. Speaking from the women's game, these players, they know that they have an obligation to inspire the next generation. They know that they have a voice and they know that people are listening. And I think they really make the most of that. And that's where I think the men's game could really learn off it.
Make sure that you have lifelines. Make sure that you have that chosen family. Make sure that you feel solid in the sponsorships that you promote, that also promote you. And ask for help and don't try to do it alone. None of us are supposed to do those things alone, but I really do believe that there is a freedom in visibility and voice and really being your true whole self. And to a world-class athlete or to a community athlete, you'll play better. You'll be a better version of yourself. And on their own terms, lastly, on their own terms. It doesn't have to be time-based. It should be on one's own terms, always.
Society is in a place where it's tired of being lectured and rampant in its responses, some of which are sizably hurtful and abusive. And it's possibly just not the right time. Now, that's just me, and who am I to say if a player has a desire to make his sexuality public, let him do it. But just be prepared for the backlash.
Chelsea,